As the clock strikes 7, the vibes are alive. Inner circles here, where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come on, come on, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. Inner Circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the call. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Inner Circle podcast, where we amplify voices, empower dreams, and elevate communities. Tonight's our weekly business segment, and our topic is immigrant and stock market investing. We are deep diving into that topic. So very powerful topics, often misunderstood. If you are new to investing or curious about building wealth, or just looking for a smarter way to grow your money, this episode is actually for you. So Miss B and I today, it's like a full disclaimer. We don't claim to know about, you know, we are not Wall Street analysts, we are not investors, but tonight is a topic we're looking into, right? If you are trying to build wealth or diversify your portfolio, if you are into other businesses or have investment, you are just an ordinary person who has been wondering about the stock market. Tonight we'll give our own little ideas about it. What I think or what you might think. The best way to grow your money or to diversify, especially lately, right? It's been really in the news. With the new administration, a lot of things has been going on tariffs and it's like the market, like every day, it's like market is up and down. If you have a 401k, is the topic of this episode is also for you because who knows, but I don't invite that you check your 401k every day, things like that. So, but again, this is our weekly business segment. I'm your host, Abe Kamara, and Miss B, introduce yourself quick to our audience, and then we'll get right into it.
Oh, welcome Wednesday, folks. It's your girl, Miss B. Always here minding the business that pays me. Let's do this.
Okay. And folks, there is a community show. You can follow Inner Cycle Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's growing. It's getting big. Facebook, follow us on Facebook. Everywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere, follow us, man. The community is growing. So we hope you can join it and let us all amplify our voices and elevate our community. So Miss B, right? When you look at the stock market recently, first of all, do you beyond if you have beyond maybe your 401k or other investment opportunities, are you vested in the stock market
Not as
relative?
heavily, not as heavily as maybe you, but yeah, I'm like
Okay,
I
if it's
said, I'm
not
not
as
gonna
heavy,
lie. I'm a
if it's not
fan of
heavy,
Target.
how involved are you into it? Are you a day trader or are you someone who maybe have you own one or two companies and it's like what, maybe I
Yeah,
own Apple,
just
I own Walmart and said and that's it. I
just
don't look at it.
just just one or two, put a little bit of money there and
Mhm.
not worrying about it right now. Just put a
Okay,
few dollars there and not really worrying about it right now.
okay,
Um yeah, that's about where I'm at with that. I'm heavily invested in real estate. So I do worry about my value of my properties there going down even in the midst of a tariff.
okay,
Um, but when it comes to the stock market, I'm new. I'm still engaging little by little, but I'm not heavily invested, not even 10 grand invested, really.
Well, if you look at it though, right, that's what got me. That's what really got me curious, and that was the idea behind this whole topic. Right, the stock market is considered the greatest wealth creator, right? Especially the reason why America is the richest country in the world because that's where a lot of wealth. Wall Street create a lot of wealth. I mean, Elon Musk, if you look at his wealth, it's not in properties, it's not in real estate, right? It's in Tesla or SpaceX or Starlink, right? Tesla is a publicly traded company, so that's where most of his wealth lies. Why is it why you, right, you decided to go the route of real estate versus, the stock market? I mean, can you help me understand it?
I think outside of Elon Musk, um, he's a rare one. Any investor on the stock market, if you check their portfolio, a lot of it is real estate. When you think about these companies, right? Why the
Well,
Targets, the General Mills, the 3Ms, they're heavily invested in real estate, right? And that's why they're enforcing people to go back to work. But not to get too off topic, um, the stock market, but you would, even if you think about how people started to invest, the first thing they took money from or grew their wealth in is real estate and commercial real estate, to be honest. And then that allowed them to be able to play in the stock market. If you do the research, everybody started in the real estate, from land to housing to
or
commercial,
or
and
maybe
then
that was way back in the day though. Jeff Bezos did not build his empire through real estate. Mark Zuckerberg did not build empire, or even what's his name? I mean Warren Buffett. The point I'm
they built
right,
they built they built companies. They built companies, right? And
Well, not
they
okay,
took
Jeff, like that's his name. Warren Buffett did not build any company. He just invests in companies. Okay, and and
where did
and
he get his wealth from before he invested in those companies? Where did he get his money from?
hey, I guess he was working, right? He's like, I can take my money today and invest. Let's assume like okay, like like I said, I can call countless of examples. I know you're passionate about real estate, right? I get it, but I mean, and that's
And a lot of
that-
stock in the stock market is real estate stocks. So do know that too. Like investors come together, and an investment portfolio could be strictly real estate and can be on the stock market selling shares. So
What
understand that
what you
too.
what you have reached, I mean, you have reached though, but I mean, as I said, that is somewhere I would definitely, be arguing with you, and maybe we can get a financial advisor here to someone who's, what I
You
mean.
have
But
real estate
yes,
investment companies that are trading
oh, you
shares on the
do,
stock
you
market.
do, you do.
Yeah.
But compared to where the greatest wealth creator, I mean, it's like you can
And it
add
was
real
the
estate to your
time.
portfolio, but the greatest wealth creator is not real estate because here's the thing, right?
So you're
If
talking,
you
but
need
one
money,
second. The
okay,
time when Warren Buffett was buying companies like Coca-Cola, he was paying how much for shares, right?
hmm
How much was the original people who bought Coca-Cola shares and oil shares, right? How much were they paying? People were paying $10 for these things. So you got to think, they one percenters created the stock market, honestly, right? Because they needed something new to invest their money in. They created the stock market, right? They decided, I'm gonna, what is it called, an IP, whatever, right? I'm gonna go
IPO,
public. There you go.
IPO.
I'm going to go public. So you built your company to the point where you want to go public. Right now, I could build a shoe company, right? And at some point, when I amass to a certain level, I'm going to say, you know what? Now I want to go public. I'm going to sell shares to my company on the stock market. So at the end of the day, the stock market was created by the same one percenters who got their wealth from something else and created a stock market.
Wow.
If you think about the history of the
Any,
stock market.
anyways, you know what I mean, stuff like that. But I'm just okay. Anyway, folks, tonight we are talking immigrants and stock market investing. Miss B is one of those who's passionate about real estate and not stock market. So I think tonight she's giving conflicting information. Yeah, I'll try to we'll work with it. We'll work with that a little bit, right? It's like but I'll try to course correct. I'll try to course
Yes.
correct where I can, and things like that. But you can join this conversation. Are you an investor in the stock market? If not, why are you sitting on the sidelines? As I said, right? I mean, one of the things I think, and I strongly believe, right, the stock market is the greatest wealth creator, Miss B, and I disagree on that. She feel real estate is. But anyone can invest in the stock market. You don't have to be a finance professional. You don't have to be a Wall Street analyst. So if you want to contribute to the conversation, you can call our number 952-594-5154, or you can put a comment in the chat. And by the way, we have a guest lineup for this segment. Hopefully, you know what I mean, stuff like that. We'll find a time to bring, to bring a financial advisor on so that they can educate me and Miss B and every one of our, audience folks that are interested. I think, we all should look at it. It might be risky. It should be, I mean, it is risky. It is risky, right? But it's something like, when you're in this country, as I say, I personally believe that it is the greatest wealth creator. Miss B and I disagree on that. But besides the point though, if you want to, if you say you just do it passively, you own one or two companies a year and there, is that something that have maybe like held you back from looking at it further, from maybe doing research? Because there are a lot of ways to learn about it, right? So you don't have to be a finance professional, you don't have to be someone who's technical. There are a lot of ways, there are a lot of apps, there are a lot of it's Robinhood these days that make it so easy. Is there something that's holding you back, or you say that you're so passionate about real estate?
Um, so like I said, I was
Mhm.
correct. The stock market started by rich people or investors who were looking to get money for their business, right? That's how the stock market originally started. The New York Stock Exchange started in like 17 something. And back to Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett had an insurance company, right? And so he took proceeds from his insurance company and bought companies that weren't doing so well, but he felt that they had a great operational structure, right? And so for him, he was really invested in long term. Like, so he decided, you know what? This company is not doing well right now, but I believe in the values and the infrastructure. It'll eventually do well. So I'm going to start and invest in it while it's not shining right now, right? People always want to invest when something is shiny and is doing well and it's guaranteed. Warren Buffett made his money off of doing the opposite, right? Just really looking at the core values of that business, how it started, what it's doing, and he believed in long-term investment. That's when I talk to people of color, Black people, or African immigrants who are new to the stock market. Being an investor in the stock market is really about having patience with your capital. You have to have patient capital. It's not for somebody who's trying to get rich overnight. It's not for people who are living from paycheck to paycheck. If you're doing pretty well for yourself and you can see yourself that you don't need that 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 to live off of, then you can comfortably invest into the stock market and look at things that have been around for a long time. That's why this whole Bitcoin and AI, I'm not a strong believer in tech companies because they're not doing so well. Even AI is losing its lackluster. VC venture capital firms are not looking at AI companies anymore right now, right?
Okay.
So look at the things that have been around for a long time, like strong American built companies that have been around for a long time are your safest bet. But investing in them is going to take and cause you to have to be patient about with your capital.
Okay, so just of the battle, yes or no, though, right? Again, just yes or no question to you here is: do you believe the stock market is the greatest wealth creator? Yes or no?
No,
No, you don't. Okay.
no.
Okay, that's fair. Here's what I think it is the greatest wealth creator. Anyone, right? As you said, to your point, you are very much correct. Where in like you should have a long term view. You shouldn't have a short term view. Right? If you are just but anybody can invest. I mean, even when you're living paycheck to paycheck, right? There's a way you can squeeze a $50, $25 in there, right? And just today, Robinhood make it so easy, right? You can put $25 in there, maybe every part of your paycheck, or $50 in there, right? And over time, right, and start investing that. Just as I say, you have to be patient with it, though. I'll give you one example. When the financial crisis hit back in 2008 or 2009, right, when the housing market crashed, Microsoft was going for like $30 a share. 30 bucks
Hmm.
a share. Imagine if you had like maybe like $1,000 or $5,000 and put it in Microsoft share back then. How much you think would it worth? Would it be worth today? Right?
Yeah,
How
exactly.
much you
I
think
wish
would
I
it
would
be
have
worth today?
invested in Amazon when I
Oh,
was in
okay.
college.
So I'm
I
telling you,
really wish
right?
I
So
would have, but it was just
oh,
buying,
okay.
selling books.
So you getting my point, right? On Facebook.
Yes.
On Facebook first went public in 2012. It debuted on the market at $25. Imagine if you have $5,000 or $10,000 and put it into Facebook at the time, right? At
Yeah.
$25 a share. Today, or just, I don't know, I didn't check Facebook stock price today, but it just had their earnings release. It just came out with their quarterly earnings release, and I was getting, notification on my phone that, the stock was soaring right after market. But my point is, if you are bought Facebook at $25 a share, so at one point, a couple of months ago, I said I don't know where it is today. Facebook was trading at like $500 a share. Imagine that, $500, and you want to tell me it is not the greatest wealth creator? You want to tell me how many? I mean, that's like, as I said, it's risky, but the higher the risk, the highest the reward. And anybody, right? Anybody, and I think that's where, to me, if you if and it's all required. I mean, we have talked on this show so many times. We are not bringing enough, like education to our people. There's so many other distractions our people are going through. Right? It's like, I mean, there is one. I mean, there is one thing that if people can just be educated about it, and as I said, you don't have to be a technical person. You don't have to be, a Wall Street analyst. Right? It's something like there are so many avenues that you can use, or too many tools that you can use to learn about it. But I strongly believe, right, to that
I
point
don't
that.
have to believe it's I don't have to believe it's the greatest. Is it a tool that can help grow wealth? Definitely is a proven tool that can help you to grow wealth, right?
Mhm.
And there are still a lot of privately held companies that have not gone public. I think Cargill is still privately is one of the largest, if not the largest, privately held company that has not gone public, right? And
Mhm.
so they they don't sell shares to the public. So when it's privately held, meaning is they're not selling shares on the stock market, but can still be worth billions and billions of dollars, right? And so I
Yeah,
can say
but it
there
doesn't
are
give the average
companies,
person, but it doesn't give
huh?
the average person, right? It doesn't give the average person the
No, but the
opportunity to
average
invest.
person,
I mean, to invest in it.
but the average person has you saying it's the greatest tool. And I'm just saying it's not the greatest tool. It is a tool that people can use, the average person can use, but the average person can still build a $1 billion company and not have to ever invest in stock, right? Right? Am I wrong?
I mean, how many people can do that? Is it everyone? As I said, is how many people? How many people?
And,
How many Jeff Bezos, or how many Mark Zuckerberg? How many Elon Musk? Or even like, how many small businesses have the
And
opportunity to
and
go
even
public?
when it comes to wealth, sometimes we hear more about the charismatics type of people or the more popular type people. There is people who have, more money beyond them, to be honest, that we don't get to hear about or talk about. There's even in money, there's a popularity around it, right? A
Okay.
contest around it. But anyways, I like I said, it is a tool that I really want us to be comfortable with using. Had I been educated about the stock market, I definitely would have got into the game sooner, a lot sooner, right?
Hmm.
And I do believe, especially when you talk about the opportunities, right? But even when Facebook, who still owns the bulk of those shares? That's what you got to look at, folks, right?
No, it
Even
doesn't matter.
though
To me, it doesn't matter.
it does. It does
Okay.
because it's a reason why the owners of these entities still own so much more than the average person. What has allowed the stock market to be as successful as it is because you have way more businesses and companies now that are going public and are are trading on the stock market. That's why you have a lot more of a diversity of different industries and different types of businesses and companies, right, than we had early back in the day, because the reality is that you're still going to have a lot of the shares in these entities being held by family or the person who started the company. Like Walmart family still owns a huge amount of those shares, right? When we talk about the Walton family, Jeff Bezos still owns a whole lot of the shares for Amazon. So the reality is, yes, we can be utilizing that as a tool to help us grow wealth. I just don't feel like it's the only tool that you can use to grow wealth.
As I said, I'm not saying it's the only tool. I said it's the greatest tool. But let me address the last first question here, right? Uh, the
A
what
startup
dollar
dollar
amount?
amount.
Yeah, I mean, I would say here, man, is that, as I said, as I stated earlier, it can be $25, it can be $50. It all depends on how you want to start it, right? You don't have to have 30K or 20K as Miss B was trying to allude to here, you can start with what, like $25 pay period, $25 paycheck,
No,
right? Or
no.
$50,
So
right? And let me just finish my
no,
top concept
because
here, right?
even if it maybe no, because you don't want to tell people that. Like I know for Target, even though maybe the shares is $28 a share, they're gonna have a minimum amount you must put in to buy in. So
No,
it's like five. Yeah, you can't
no.
just go
If
and
you
buy
go to
$38.
Robinhood, if you open, do you
If you
have
start
you
your
used Robinhood? Have you used Robinhood before?
no, I don't trust your
Okay,
apps.
okay, right. If
I go
if you
directly to the
okay,
entity.
what tool? Okay, so how do you which brokerage firm do you use to invest?
I gotta tell all my business here.
No, no, no. I'm not saying.
But
Oh,
yeah,
I mean those are. Let's like so the brokerage tool that is common that is if
I know
someone want to what?
Robinhood. I have the
Get,
app on my phone, but
okay,
I haven't utilized.
Robinhood
I think
only Robinhood
Acorn
25
is
20.
another one.
You can start with $25 on Robinhood, $50. Okay. And there are a lot of companies there, right? There's like that trade at, it's like today, like Lyft. Lyft is like $13 or I think 13 or $12 a share. So you can buy Lyft. There are a
I'm
lot
not
of there are a
saying
lot of
his shares
companies,
are
there are a
not
lot of
cheap.
companies, right? So just I said to answer like Todd's question here, right? The startup capital or the startup dollar amount, as I said, can be as low as $25.
Hmm.
It's like every pay period of $50. It's like the more you put, I mean, little by little, right? As I said, the little by little can make a difference. But I don't think you need 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 or fifty
No, no,
thousand.
no, no. You don't
Okay,
need
it's
that.
something you can start little. I mean, something you can start small. And Robinhood has made it very, very easy for folks to do that, even the ordinary folks to do that. Okay, so I mean, so that's the thing. I says like, and for me, I use something slightly different than Robinhood because I have been doing it for a longer time. So I don't use Robinhood. I use something slightly different. But if you just want to get into it and get started, Robinhood, it is a good app. It's easier to use and it can help educate you through the process. So to answer your question here, Touch, a startup capital, in my view, can be as low as $25 or even $50. Every people a chunk that in there. A lot of us in the community can like can spend
But you
like
have to know
over.
that there's fees. There's broker fees too, Abraham.
No, no,
So
none of these. Robinhood doesn't charge brokerage fees.
okay, then that's good for Robinhood.
So it's like about a couple of years ago, right? Every trading platform, all the major trading platform eliminated brokerage fees. So if you buy a
Okay.
stock, right, they used to like like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or all of these different platforms, or you E-Trade, they all used to charge brokerage fees. Not anymore. They don't charge brokerage fees. If you are buying like there's some Target trade at $100 share. If you're buying Target, you would definitely buy $100 share without any brokerage fees. Those days of charging brokerage fees are gone. So you can, like, if it's a dollar, you pay the dollar for the share. Now, where folks need to know though, right? It is if you become a stock investor, I mean, it's like know that you pay tax if you happen to sell, right? I mean, the tax rate on trading is very, very high, right? If you happen to sell
Hmm.
at the end of the year when you're filing your tax, you definitely have to account for that. But if you are not withdrawing money though, that is something you don't have to worry about. And to your point earlier about long-term investment, I think that's what that comes in. Like, so when you're in it for the long haul, you can play with that thing for a long time without worrying about it. The day you're ready to sell though, that's what you should be kind of a concern about. you know uh Uncle Sam, that where Uncle Sam might come in and try to kind of burn you. But I
And so
know,
even your bank, I know Wells Fargo offers investing in the stock opportunities through them. So your bank,
Wells Fargo does US I
yep,
mean all of the
check
major
with your
banks.
banks.
Yeah,
You said what?
all of the major banks.
Yeah, and Wells Fargo does say you can start with as low as $5.
Oh, that's what Wells Fargo says. Is that what Wells Fargo is advertising? You can start as low as $5.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's good. And that's something where, as I said, right, the community really, need to, you know, as I said, I'm not encouraging you to go make a investment decision, but I'm just encouraging you, right, to learn about it because even lately it has been really in the news. Oh, like, I mean, on Liberation Day last night, we talk about Liberation Day here when Trump announced, reciprocal tariffs on every major countries. Stock market went down like, you know,
It
it really,
tanked.
really,
I'm scared to
yeah,
say
it
it
really,
tanked.
really tanked. So let's assume though, if you have money that day, right, you could have just gone into it. You could have actually gone into it the next day or today or even today. You could have recovered most of your, you could have made huge profits. And that's what to me I believe. Again, come back to that whole point. I believe it is the greatest wealth creator. The other thing I wanted to come to here, right? It is also very, very risky.
Very.
Very, 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 very risky. It is something to your point earlier. If you have your life savings, I don't advise that you put it into it if you don't have if you don't have that long term view, right? If you don't have that long term view, do not take your life savings and put it into it because it is a high risk. But wherever there's risk, high risk is high, reward. What's
Mhm.
your view on that?
I mean, I agree. Like, again, if you own a home and you have equity in there, you shouldn't just let the equity sit in there, right? You should figure out how to take out some of that equity and put it into the stock market. Unfortunately, taking out the equity is refinancing, it's a loan, but still you shouldn't be letting your equity. That's the whole purpose of having equity, is to take some of that equity out and reinvest in other places, right? That's the purpose of owning that home. And so I will advise people that, look into um your refinancing. I know it's kind of not scary times right now with these interest rates, right? But it's still a good time to be investing, because for those who you are doing pretty well for yourself, like he's saying, the stock market may look volatile right now, but this is the times where things are really cheap and good companies are cheap. Just because maybe it's an image thing, I go back to Target, right? Costco right now is doing very, very well, right? Walmart is not doing so well, so I think their stock has fell. Consumer spending is not doing so well, but the reality is keeping your money in the bank, even in such times, is not the best thing to be doing at you're not getting that huge rate of return. So find something or somewhere else to be able to put your money. If you're not trusting the stock market, I think we talked about gold last night. If anything, at the end of the night, I say your homework should be is just go and do some kind of research every Wednesday. I think that's what Abraham and I can be kind of pushing for you to go do some kind of research to start getting your feet wet and gaining more knowledge about what's going on out there. I know I'm going to be, and I have been looking more so than not, of places to put my money.
Okay. Well, first of all, gold, right? If you got a lot of cash sitting around, gold is, last night our guest said gold prices are going up. So to Miss B point, if you got money, if you got something like 20, 30K sitting somewhere, maybe in a bank account, I would say, hey, look at gold because gold prices are going up. And whenever there's a fear of recession or all of the uncertainty that's going on, gold is one of the assets folks run into. So gold prices are definitely going up, but it requires huge amount of money. But the other thing, though, right, to answer again Todd's question, is there any known data of immigrants in stock investment? What does that trend look like? To my knowledge, I think, the reason why we are even discussing this topic, you don't have a lot of immigrants, and I could be wrong on that, right? When it comes to the market, when it comes to investing, right? We I don't think you have a lot of immigrant in this space. I could be wrong. It's something like maybe like even the research. Maybe I must say I need to go do further research on that. But I could be wrong. A lot of folks when you talk to them about the stock market investment, oh yeah, like maybe to Miss B point, oh that's rich people think that's for the 1%. I just don't think so, though, right? I just don't think so because look at this. Steve Jobs maybe went and established Apple, established that company, right? As I go, you don't have to. You can just if you bought Apple stock or you decide, you know what, I like Apple as a company and stuff like that. Maybe I own an iPhone. You can invest in Apple, right? If you are maybe if you love coffee or hot tea like I do, right? You can invest in Starbucks. You don't have to go establish a coffee company, right? You can definitely like invest in Starbucks. Like Sean Mason is saying here, Starbucks stock is really really cheap right now. But that's the point I'm trying to get at. You don't really right have to go and build a company from scratch. You can look at a company like Apple or Starbucks and say, hey man, you know what? I can go and invest in this. And I think if you look at the immigrant community, I don't think a lot of us I read it in this space. I could be wrong. I mean, it's a research that I will probably, I mean, look into further. Miss B, I don't know what's your thought, but when I talk to a lot of my peers, a lot of folks, most of them just look at it. What are you? I don't. It's too risky. I don't want to put my money there. I don't know much about it, because when you follow dated news, if you watch CNN or Fox News or whatever, it's just like it just talk about either the good or the good or the bad, and they're not really looking at all of the other things behind it.
I feel there's more of us that are doing it than ever
Okay.
than we think.
Okay.
And I just did some research on still there's more whites than any other race that are more invested in the stock market, either directly or indirectly, meaning coming from wealth and continue to still hold the wealth. Wealth is not, and as Abraham wants to believe, the stock market is this thing that's providing everybody equal opportunity to grow wealth.
It is.
Wealth
I
is
think.
wealth
I
is
think it
still
is.
not exchanging hands. It's not exchanging hands
And
at
the reason, and the
any
reason
new
it is
rate
not,
than it
the
was
reason
back
it's not
in the
exchanging hands. The,
1800s.
the reason why
It's
it's not
not.
exchanging hands. The
The
reason.
same people still hold the wealth, Abraham. The same one
Wait.
percenters.
Okay, hear me out here. The reason it is not exchanging hands because we are afraid to take this risk. And we always want to say, oh no, it's only for rich folks, it's only for other folks, it's only for the 1%, it's only for it's only for
No,
white
it's
folks.
not fear.
No.
Don't not
What is it?
because
Okay,
our
what is it?
numbers are low or something or lacking somewhere. You always want to say if numbers are not reflective of our population size, you want to feel like it's fear. It is not fear. It's just the reality of
What is the
the
reality? Tell
exchange,
me the
the
reality. Make it
exchange,
make
the
sense to me. What
exchange
is the
of
reality?
wealth. The exchange of wealth is not changing hands, even for white people. Even for white people, it's not changing hands. The same 1% continue generational wealth lies heavily in the white population. And the same people that's why it's called generational wealth. The same people continue to hold on to the wealth, right? The very few. That's why we talk about the one percenters and have been talking about them for a long time. So when you look at the stock, the statistic says there's more whites and then blacks and then Hispanics. And some data may show more Hispanics, which I was surprised, more Hispanics are investing in the stock market. But we still have a good number of Black people that are investing in the stock market, right? That I would not have even considered. I think you have 39% of Black families, 28% of Hispanic families, and 66% of white families, are in the stock market. I'm shocked that there's 39%, even for us, So we don't talk about it. I think it's not even so much fear, but it's just the reality is we don't talk about what we're doing well with each other. When I went out with a group of girlfriends, and when we started talking, I'm like, why don't we have these honest conversations more often than come and talk about the fluffy, foolish stuff, right? You're doing stuff in the stock market, Abraham. If it wasn't for the podcast, you weren't talking much about that with your friends, were you, right? Why were you scared to have that conversation with your friends more often? Why isn't it we grab beers on a weekend and we talk about what are you investing in? What stock do you own? What stock do you own? I think that's what we need to be more comfortable having the conversation. Not necessarily is it a fear thing.
Okay, so any of my friend that knows me or anyone that has been knowing me for a long time, that's one of my passion, right? As I say, I'm not as heavily invested, but it's something I've been doing for a long time. Any of my friend, I always tell any of my friend, if you want to grow wealth, if you want to diversify your portfolio, if you want to build wealth in America, I think personally, as I say, it's my personal opinion, the stock market is the quickest way to go, is the fastest way to go, and it also what it does is like it just make you stay on top of your game in terms of how to manage your money, in terms of current events, when anything is happening, I mean with politics, with business, you just stay on top of things, right? Because these companies that are all trading on Wall Street, everything they do become news. So any of my friend that knows me will tell, I always tell them, if you want to grow wealth, if you want to build wealth, the stock market, I think, is the best way to go. And so I've had a conversation to that with my friends. Something, and even one of the things that I actually, hopefully, some of my friends will buy into this idea, right? It's like it's to for us to create what we have in the African community or in Liberian community, or in Susu. I would like to create a stock market investment Susu group. Well, like, hey man, you have your $50 every month,
I'm in. I'm in.
or $75, every pay period. Let's pull
You
those resources
you get
together.
10 friends to borrow
Let's
you
put
$20 or
let's
$50.
put
I'll
those
get 10 friends.
resources
I'm in.
together, right? And invest, right? Because instead of
Yes.
us sitting here and just saying, oh, it's only for the 1%, it's only for the 2%. It's like, because the most of those that actually own stocks like that's on Wall Street are institutional investors.
Yep.
And guess
Yes.
what? And you can create your own little institution. you know and invest in stocks, right? So that's one of the things. To me, I think, right, if I can bring my immigrant friends together, my friends together, right? Hey, gentlemen, let us join together. Hey, every pay period, I know, like, most of us now will go out on weekend. We spend more than $200 or
Thousands of
500.
dollars.
Exactly.
They're
So
going to be
if we can,
spending thousands of dollars next weekend, and Fargo will be spent.
you see that? Okay, so that's the thing. So to answer your question again, like, I would like to say, any of my friends that know me, I always talk about it. It's something like, again, though, right? I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't try to push it much, because sometimes when we bring that conversation, folks will say, man, I don't know how you do it, but it's too risky for me. I don't want to mess with it. It's too, it's a conversation. Sometimes it's hard to have. It is very, very hard to have. And I don't blame anybody, right? But if it's something you're comfortable with, and I always tell my friends, it's easy to learn. It's easy. You just gotta what? Be curious. You just gotta put the time into it. Sometimes we spend so much time on other things.
Have you experienced any losses?
Oh yeah, that's like the last couple of, since Trump took over on January 20th or January
Your
21st.
bestie?
Oh yeah, since he took over and he started his whole, trade war and things like that, all of this uncertainty, I mean, it's like, some of our portfolio, right, has been taking a beating. You know what I mean? Really, really, some serious, serious beating. But hey, it's a long-term view, right? I don't look at it today as something, right? I always say, like, most of the companies that are taking a beating today, if you look at it 6 months from now, 1 year from now, right, they could be up 10, 15, 20%. So
Will
so
you
it
look at doing some foreign investing, like investing outside of America's stock market?
no. If I
Do
want to
you
invest in
trust?
a if I want to invest in a foreign company, I mean, Toyota trade on the US stock market. That's a foreign company. I can buy Toyota.
Okay.
Volkswagen, Volkswagen. A lot of foreign companies that's trade on Wall Street. So if I want to invest in a foreign, if I want to do foreign investment, I would do companies that are already trading on the let's say, on the stock market right here in the US. Alibaba is one of those, right? That's trading right here. It's a Chinese company, but it is trading on Wall Street and things like that. So, as I said, Toyota, Honda, and things like that. These are companies that they are not going anywhere anytime soon. And a lot of immigrants are familiar with Toyota, and they love Toyota cars, right? So hey, or Samsung. Samsung is also trading. It's a publicly traded company right here on Wall Street. So if I want to invest in foreign companies, these are the companies most that I look at.
Okay.
Mhm. So okay,
Yeah.
so folks, tonight we are discussing immigrants and stock market investing. Are you in the market? Are you investing in the market, or are you one of those that have bought into the cryptocurrency craze? The Miss B point earlier, for me, I have never touched cryptocurrency since it came into being. Even though a lot of folks, don't get me wrong, a lot of folks have gotten rich out of that. I know folks that
Yeah.
that have really,
Because
really.
they knew when to get out. That has
Right.
been the key.
Okay. So, Tosh is hot here tonight. Miss B, we reviewing your trend. I'll let you take this, Miss B. So, what Tosh is saying here?
Miss B, reviewing the trend associated with other folks, are they gaining more than they're losing in this arena? This would help inform and encourage more immigrants to participate as a strange territory for most. As far as are folks gaining or losing in the stock market arena,
I think that's what he's driving at. Yeah, that's what he's driving at.
I, I
That
I would say I would say, folks, I know, those of us that work in and community development have been talking about this conversation, having this conversation for at least for the last 3 years. You know, is home ownership the only way to wealth building? And because there are folks, that believe in other opportunities, I would say more people have been being successful recently. I want to say since people started investing in the Bitcoin thing, like doing COVID. They had a lot of time on their hands and they were paying attention. I think that's when somebody shared the Robinhood app with me, was doing COVID. It probably was longer than that. And I would say people did really find more success in that COVID time period. For some reason, I don't know what it was. You had a lot of celebrities and rappers talking about Bitcoin, and people did make a lot of money. But right now, I think what the success that people are not being successful is really due to a lot to the tariffs, like Abraham said, right? But prior to, people have been finding a lot of success in the stock market. The folks that I know of that have taken the risk to invest in the stock market. However, before the tariffs, some of the people were seeing losses in Bitcoin. But as far as other stocks, people were still continuing to see success.
Well, yeah, to answer that question, I would say for the most part, yes, right? For the most part, as I said, it's all about you doing your research. It's all about there are a lot of companies out there. And one of the things too I would like to stress, right? There's two kind of companies that trade on Wall Street. You have growth stock. Growth stock are those companies like maybe like Tesla is one of those growth stock. Tesla is not paying any dividend. Or maybe Nvidia, the AI stock. Nvidia is one of those companies that is considered a growth stock. They are not paying any dividend, even though, right? I take that back about Nvidia. Nvidia quite recently has started paying dividend, but if I tell you their dividend is like 1 cent a share, right? So that's not really, they are still considered kind of like a growth stock. But growth stock are companies that are not paying any dividend, where in like is like you just buy their share and the hope is it will go up. When it go up and you sell, you make profit. If it goes down, you don't make any profit, right? You lose your money. Now versus dividend stocks. Dividend stocks are stocks that every quarter, if you are vested in them, if you are invested in them, dividend stocks pays you dividend every quarter, every 3 months. One of the best dividend stocks, right? Apple. Apple's a good one. Even Target. Target has a very good dividend. Medtronic has a very, very good dividend. If you invest in these stocks, right? Every 3 months, let's say you own 100 shares of Medtronic. Every 3 months, I think they give you like 40 cent a share every 3 months. Apple, I think it's about 25 cents a share, if I could be mistaken. Starbucks, that Mason mentioned earlier, Starbucks also pay dividends. So these are companies. If you are looking at the long term, you talk about Warren Buffett earlier. That is when Warren Buffett talk about investing or investment, he talks about dividend stocks because every 3 months, whether the market go down or the market go up, these companies pay you dividends. Now, if those assets, if the prices of these stocks go up, right? If their prices go up, that's just an extra cushion for you. That's just your extra. I mean, that's just an extra profit for you. But these companies every month they pay every quarter. I mean, every 3 months, every time they come up with their quarterly earnings. After that, they will announce their dividend and they will pay out dividends. Walmart does pay dividend. Target does pay dividend. All of the established companies they do pay dividend. So to answer your question, whether folks have gained in this arena, I would say yes. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But you have to understand what is your goal. Is your goal just to go there and make quick profit? As a day trader, sometimes we have that temptation. I just want to go make few bucks. But you have to have that long-term view. If you
Long
have,
term.
gotta be sometime, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years horizon.
Yeah.
I promise you, if you have that kind of a mindset, right, you can I would say maybe 75% out of 100%, you always come out on top. But again, it's an arena where you have to be very curious. You have to follow the news every day. You have to CNBC have to be your friend. Yahoo Finance, Google Finance,
Yeah.
those news outlets. Instead of you watching CNN, I would say, man, maybe like watch CNBC. Instead of you watch, if you love facts, instead of you watching facts, follow Yahoo News or follow Bloomberg, right? Because they will give you up to date financial news. And these companies as well. If you are investing in Apple or any of these companies, every time they have their earnings release, they will send you their everything they are doing, the investment they are trying to make. Wells Fargo does the same thing. I mean, every Wells Fargo pay dividends, right? Even your local banks, US Bank pay dividend. Uh, but every quarter, these companies will come up with when they come up with their earnings release, they'll come up with a huge statement, right? They call it a huge statement will tell you how they performed last quarter, what it is that they are going to invest in. Sometimes like you already know what these companies are going to be doing, right? Before even sometimes like They gave you just that long term view. When you look at it, you can say, okay, should I still be keeping my money here or should I get out? Right. So
Yeah.
to answer Todd's question, I would say, man, I mean, 7 times out of 10, you will always come out on top. If you are not trying to be greedy, if you are just patient, it requires patience. When it comes to stock market investing, I think to me, it requires patience. It requires you saying, you know what? I think in the long run, I will come out on top here.
Everything growing wealth requires patience. That's why when I talk about wealth building with folks, I remind them how long Amazon was around for before Jeff Bezos became a billionaire. 30 years. These companies are all old. When you think about how long Beyonce has been in the music industry, we're talking 20 plus years. Wealth is accumulative. It's over time. It takes patience. Nobody that's wealthy did it overnight, right? Think about how long Oprah has been in the industry, even Tyler Perry. Like everybody I can think of that you can think of that has money, nobody did it overnight, right? Nobody did it in 2, 3, 5 years. It really takes time. It's wealth is accumulative. It's the wealth that we're creating now may not necessarily be for us to enjoy at this moment, but it's probably wealth that we're going to leave behind for our kids, and our kids' kids will come and be able to enjoy it. So just be patient with your money. If you want to receive more, you want to have a higher rate on your return, then you go in higher with your investment too. That's
Yeah.
another way to see more. It's risky, it's more risk. You're investing in more, but the more you invest, the better rate of your return, right?
Okay. Now, like, I mean, when you talk about a generational wealth, right, I think is if we want to teach or we want to transfer wealth to our kids, sometimes maybe it's not the properties or the asset that we leave them. It's to start teaching them these little things.
Yes.
So me, my
Yes.
goal is to teach my kids how to invest in the stock market. To try to start learning about money. It's like if they say, "Oh, Dad, give me $50, let me go to the mall," I would say, you know what, instead of me giving you $50 for you to go to the mall, I'll give you $100, but I want you, to invest. I want you to invest it, right? And just look at it over time. How is it going to perform, right? So it's like, I think that's one of the way we can teaching our kids about money, right?
Yeah.
And one of the way, especially about investing, not only like teaching them about money, how to save or how to manage, but also like investing because that's key, right? We are living it. Eventually, we'll leave these kids here, and not only helping them because I always say we black people we are born in deficit, and we leave our family in
And we leave
deficit.
them in deficit. Oh gosh, yes, yes. And
So
there has been old money that has been lost. If you think about what's his name? The CNN Cooper, Anderson Cooper. His
mhm,
family has lost their wealth, right? So like Abraham, back to Abraham's point, if there's no good in creating this wealth and growing and making this money if you're not going to teach your kids how to manage it and take care of it, because yeah, there's a lot of wealthy people who have made a lot of money and lost it and are broke and have gone back to poverty, unfortunately, because they left money to kids that didn't know what it meant to earn it and didn't know how to manage it or continue to invest in it. So it's
okay,
important for us to start having conversations about money now. There's books that you can buy parents as little as your 5 year old to start having conversation about money. I went to the church in Maple Grove. It's a creative church, and there was actually a pastor there visiting. His whole sermon was about wealth, and talks about how his 9 year old owned I don't know how many acres of land. His 9 year old grandchild owned how many acres of land, right? And they have a book that they were talking about teaching your kids about money and how God wants you to be blessed and be fruitful, right? I was amazed that a pastor was talking about this in church. But yeah, it's a conversation we need to start having early on, sooner rather than later, with our kids.
yeah. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing immigrant and stock market investing, and the purpose of this conversation tonight that Miss B have started talking, it's just to kind of create awareness, right? Tell you that there's another avenue of trying to maybe if you're into real estate as Miss B, if you're into susu as my man Tyler said, that's where most Liberians are waiting. Like they put that money somewhere every time they call, they take it out, right? If you are into other avenues, if you are into other things, and things like that, I think if you are not look at the stock market, I think it is an opportunity for you to look at it, right? Do your research, learn about it, educate yourself. There are a lot of tools out there these days. So that's the purpose of this conversation tonight, just to create that awareness, just to let you know that, hey, man, if you haven't taken a look, I think personally, you should take a look. You should give, or if you are taking a look before and say it's not for me, maybe like, take another look because personally, as I said, it's just my personal opinion. I think it is the greatest wealth creator, right? Anybody can start. Anybody can get into it. So that's the purpose of this conversation tonight. Obviously, we are working on bringing a financial advisor here, someone who's really, really versed in stock market investing, who knows
Yeah.
all the in and outs, who can give us all of the education we need to really, really learn about it. Because the essence of our business segment every Wednesday is to bring this topic. I know these are topics, these are things we don't like to hear about. We don't like money topics, we don't like finance topic, we don't like business topic. We only want to talk about all of the juicy gossip out there. But we have been intentional here at Inner Circle Podcast to bring this conversation up because we need to start creating wealth in the black community, especially in the immigrant community, right? Instead of us complaining, like my sis Miss B all would like to do, right? Say it's the 1%, is the rich. I think we all can get rich, but we just have to be intentional about it. And that's what we have made. We are doing our best here at Inner Cycle to play our part to bring financial education, business education. And so you can make your own informed decision. Go and do your research and don't just sit there complaining about the system. Let us try to impact the system and let us try to change it. Agree, Miss B, or no?
I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't want us to continue to say, "Oh, it's fear keeping us." I think sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge. Oftentimes, more I want to believe now it's the lack of knowledge, the inability to be comfortable with the conversation amongst each other. And right, that's what the first place the conversation needs to start is among each other. I think that's why we don't have as many people. But then also doing the research because here it is, we found out what 29% of us Black people are invested in the stock market. I would have never guessed that high of a percentage of us are invested in the stock market. So
If they if
I
they if they if they have reached if they had a I think maybe to title specific question or point, if they had like data on immigrants, I know probably that's a I mean they don't have that kind of a data point, but
yeah, it's
it's
not
good.
desegregated like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's good to know though, right? You have 39% of black folks invest in the stock market. That I mean, it is shocking because to your point, right? We don't really have those conversation among us. When we say if you go in a Caucasian community, people have casual conversation around those things. Man, how's
Yes.
your portfolio
Yes.
doing? Right? That's a normal
Yes.
conversation. How's your portfolio doing? How
How's your
you doing?
portfolio
It's like
doing?
sometimes when I go to the gym, you see like young folks, right, talking about man, maybe they might be talking about one or two stock here and there, right? It's like having that conversation. It's a man, I bought this stock. I thought I was going to make a lot of money. And then they're talking about the stock, the company, their performance, it's like in our community, we don't have those conversations, right? It's like it is very, very difficult to have those conversations. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of fear. We are comfortable talking about other things, but when it comes to this, when it comes to maybe growing wealth or building wealth, we are not comfortable having those conversations. I don't know why. I mean, you are in a nonprofit space, Miss B, you deal with a lot of our people, but I don't know why we don't have those conversations.
We're having it differently. I would say we talk about brands a lot, right? Eh, Our kids probably all know Louis. They all know Gucci. They all know Nike. Those are brands you can buy stock in. I mean, you value them to put them on your body. You value they provide you a status, right? We use them as a status symbol as a way to show we got it, we got money. But instead of wearing it on us, like invest in them, right? Um, I don't hear much about those brands them really struggling or lose, especially Chanel. Chanel does not loses its value, right? So you got to think, right? If I can buy some stock in luxury brands, you wear them, you talk about them all the time, but talk about them differently. Have the conversation differently. It shouldn't be, oh my man, I'm going to this event. I'm going to buy my Tom Ford suit. I'm going to buy my Gucci this. I'm going to be red bottom from head to toe. You're having conversations about money. You're having conversations about stocks that are on the stock market, in the stock market. You're just having the conversation wrong. So try and change how you're having that conversation.
And that's a great point, right? I mean, it's like if you know the company that own those luxury brands, hey man, as I said, right, invest in it. If you know who owns, if you know the company that owns, Louis Vuitton or
I think
Chanel,
it's
you should go invest.
LVMH.
Yeah,
LVMH owns a lot of them. Yeah.
yeah, you should go invest in them, and that's a good point. And so when I first became a Apple iPhone convert, the first thing I did, I mean, I was investing in Apple stock before then, right? It's like, but I became even more loyal to Apple instant story. So as I said, since I buy an iPhone, right? I rather invest in Apple as a company. And my
Yep.
favorite again, right, is like so that's the part I was trying to drive right here. Start with the companies you know or the
Nope.
products that you use most, right? To your
Yes.
point. Like
Yep.
I mean a lot of folks tell everyone even when I travel, everywhere I travel in America, my first store I go to is Target.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm intentional about owning Target stock, even though it's being taking a beating, right? That's it. So I'm intentional about owning Target stock. I love to fly Delta, and because I love to fly Delta, that's my favorite airline, right? I love to own Delta stocks,
Mm-hmm.
right? My cell phone company is Verizon. So the point I'm trying to drive at, everything that I feel that you know what I mean, like that I own, to your point earlier, right? Anything like I own an iPhone, I'm investing in Apple. A Verizon
Yep.
phone company, I'm investing in Verizon,
Yep.
right? Even the company that I work for, if they give me certain percentage of hey man, we'll give you X, Y, and Z to invest. I also go I mean, since I'm working here, right? I
Let
also
me
want to
invest more. Yep.
let me invest more, right? Let me put my money. I mean, let me put my money here because I feel that this is where I'm at. Things like that. So companies that you know, a company that you're familiar with, a product that you are using, I think, and sometimes these companies are not expensive, not at all.
No.
I mean,
No.
if you bank at West Fargo, I think West Fargo stock is might be in the 60s or 50s. That's an easy one to own. Or I mean, we in Minnesota here, U.S. Bank. If you bank with U.S. Bank or even Bank of America, I think Bank of America stock is in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Like start with things that you know that you're familiar with or that you use every day, products or services that you use, right? It's like start with those because that's the way to get yourself comfortable. As I said, there are a lot of good apps out there. So Robinhood, there's Fidelity, there's E-Trade,
Yeah.
you
Bank of
know,
America is $39 right now.
$39, right? If
Yep.
you're someone who lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, or live anywhere on the East Coast, right? Is that Bank of America is has a huge presence over there, or even live places like Texas, right? Bank of America has a huge presence. So yeah, you could. And Bank of America, by the way, they pay dividend. These are companies that are just went over. Most of them pay dividends. So their stock price, they are not growth companies. They might not be going up high in prices, but I assure you, every 3 months they will pay you something. If you have maybe $1,000 laying around, Bank of America is $39. You can go and buy Bank of America, right? So
Yep.
to my viewpoint earlier, companies that products that you own or products that you often use, stores that you visit a lot. As I say, I visit Target, so I'm always intentional about owning Target. And Target's a great company; they're not going anywhere. These are companies that are not going anywhere, right? They might lose you money
No, they're
there, but
not.
that I mean, they are going to be around for a long, long time.
Yeah. Think about the stuff you have in your house that you invest in. Go and buy stock in it. That's the first place you can start, right? And
Yeah.
I guarantee all the companies that Abraham just talked about, you frequent them and you have their product in your house right now as we speak. And so we're not experts. A lot of disclaimers here we're going to throw around. We're not experts. We don't claim to know it all. We're just sharing how we're doing it. So if you may see us and be like, oh, they look like they're doing very well. Well, this is how we're doing. Our layman's way of trying to do well is just kind of doing our research, educating ourselves about different things, and coming here and sharing that information with you all.
And these days, there are a lot of self-education out there, right? The internet has made it so easy. And then now you have AI. All of these technology has made it so easy just to educate yourself, right? Hey, no offense. I mean, no offense to people who are still getting no degrees, but these days I think like just sit in your basement in your house, right? Just open the internet and just learn as much as you can learn. There's so much great educational materials, great tools out there just to educate yourself about anything that you want to do, anything you're passionate about. And if you are someone who want to invest in the stock market, a lot of apps, a lot of tools out there. Yahoo Finance, I recommend. You know, it's like there are articles coming up every day. You know, CNBC. If you just like download that on your phone. Robinhood, you don't have to. You can download the app and just be learning about it, reading about it, and just be curious, right? If you want to, anything you want to do, just be curious about it. Just be hungry, and just something that you want to learn about. So,
I
and
listen. I like to listen to my grandpa Warren.
oh,
He's my
okay,
biggest. He's my biggest advisor. Yeah, because I believe Warren likes the little people,
okay,
and
okay.
he's rooting for us. So yeah, he gives great tips.
That's good. That's good. So, folks, tonight we have been discussing immigrant and stock market investing. You know, as Ms. B said, we have been providing our own little ideas and just to provide awareness, right? It's not something to say, hey, go and start investing in stock market today. It's to create
Mm-mm.
awareness. It's to bring awareness in our community. That, hey, man, we want to bring wealth. We want to build wealth, especially in the immigrant community. To me, I'm very passionate about our community. I might not look that way. I might not seem that way, but I'm very passionate about especially when it comes to wealth, especially when it comes to building wealth. I feel like we can do it, right? It's not easy. We can do it, but it's something we have to be intentional about. So that's the essence of this conversation tonight, just to bring awareness to our people. Here, man, the stock market you might hear is down right now, and like to Tado's question here, I think we talked about it last night. You know, considering the current trade war launched by Trump, we advise stock investment at this time. Otherwise, are there any current negative impacts? I would say, man, this is the best time to
Yeah,
actually buy. This is
yeah,
the best time. If I was a financial advisor, I would say if you have money laying out, if you have money in a bank or under your mattress, take it out, put it in here, and don't look at it. Right? It's like just put it in here. Right? There are a lot of great deals out there right now. If I look at the last time I look at Apple stock, that I think was this morning or yesterday, it is very cheap. Considering Apple, it's very cheap, right? One of the hardest AI stock, Nvidia is very very cheap right now, right? A lot of companies out there, they are so cheap because the trade war, not only the trade war, it's just the uncertainty, right? There's so many, like since Trump came today, making 100 days, man. There's so much he's been throwing at us. So there's so much happening. But it's a great time to just get in the stock market, invest, and you know, just as I said, you have to have that long-term horizon, maybe 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and I will tell you, you will never lose. So I think to answer your question, it's a great time to do that.
yeah. It's a great time. And then I think Abraham just kind of gave you some jewels of how you can do it and not have to do it alone, right? There is no such thing. There's no one is self-made, right? I just kind of want to share this book here. I know we're talking about the stock market, but I think it relates to the topic we're having here tonight, right? It's a new book by Dr. Lakeisha Hallman. It's No One is Self-Made. Build Your Village to Flourish in Business and Life. Build your village to flourish in business and life. And that's what I think the Inner Circle podcast is about. We want to build a village. And in building that village, we want to be able to bring this information, encourage and motivate you guys to do your research, right? Do your due diligence and go and find stuff out. And you don't have to do it alone. We're always talking about coming together and doing it with other people. So there's no such thing as no one who is self-made. Nobody is self-made out there, right? Everybody has been able to grow wealth either through their collective body of people that they know, their
Mhm.
close circle, or their network that they have grown. That's how they've been able to do this over time. And so grow your village.
Well, that's a good point right there, right? So, that's a great point that you just brought up. And to me, I always like to say, I think in our community, we don't do that. We all like to do things in silos. To your point earlier, you
Mm-hmm.
asked me, have I talked to my friends beside maybe on Inner Cycle podcast? Have I talked to my friends about maybe the stock market or other investment opportunities? That is something we don't do. I know, like, we all have this maybe crab mentality, right? Maybe like if I know it or if I have it, I don't want anybody else to own it. For me, though, I like to take a different track or different trend, right?
Same here. Yep.
I feel like the more the merrier, the more
Yes.
the merrier, and it is easy to build together faster
Yes.
than you trying to do it by yourself.
Yes.
Imagine, as I told you, right, if we can create an institutional investment firm in our immigrant community. So, say, right, maybe 10 or 15 of us come together and create an institutional investment firm, right? And we just take our resources and invest in different companies. It will grow a lot faster versus me trying to do it by myself, right? Or versus Miss B trying to do it by herself. right? Versus maybe someone's trying to do it by themselves. It is that collective that we have not mastered yet in the black community. You know what I mean? I mean, the Caucasian folks, as I said, most of the institutional investment firm you hear, BlackRock and all those stuff, those are Caucasian owned, right? In the black community, we don't have those. And that's something we need to learn, right? Together. We need to start building together instead of, I can do it by myself. If you have an idea, I'm never afraid that someone is going to steal my idea for some reason. I mean, the competitive spirit in me, right? If I share something with you and you want to take it and run with it, have at it. I think it's just going to is like whoever the fastest to the finish line, or whoever the luckiest, or whoever is blessed the most, right, will come out on top. So I always believe that if we just build together, if we work together, if we create that village, it will be so much easier for us to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So folks, tonight
And
we
we
have.
have money because ZipRecruiter here is telling me that the average income for us in Liberians in Minnesota, it's about $112,000 per year.
Whoa, that's the
Yeah.
average income for a Liberian living in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think the next time, I think our next business segment or whatever business segment we're trying to do, right? We should do a research on every Liberian in every state, just to
Yeah.
compare that, right? Just to compare. That would be a great data
Yeah.
point.
It
It's
doesn't
like,
say what job they're doing. All
but
those
but I see
doubles.
a
I'm sure there's
hundred
some
and
people working the doubles
a
that will
hundred.
help
The average
up in
is
that
that is
number.
I mean a hundred and what?
112. Let me go back to it.
Wow, wow, 112, man.
Yeah.
So I mean, Minnesota might be ranked number one in terms of that, but I could be wrong though. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Among Liberian, Minnesota could be ranked number one, but I could be wrong. But I think we should
Probably
gather
because
that
there's
data.
more of us here. I think our state has the most Liberians.
Okay, we should still gather that data point and just maybe share with our audience. Wherever you are in North America, right? I think we should try to start coming together to build generational wealth, to build
Yeah.
wealth together. So
Before we leave, I
yeah.
just want to continue to stress the importance of research, right?
Mhm.
So imagine when we come on this show, we're always trying to talk about data. We're always trying to bring you guys data. Like, imagine if we had an organization that just focused on doing research on Liberians alone, and bringing that data to the community. I think sometimes when people hear some of this data, it motivates them, it pushes them and moves them to do
Yeah.
well. We're
Yeah.
very highly educated. We're hardworking. We're making money. So what is it? What is our weakest link?
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, folks, tonight, as I said, it's a 1 hour show, and we are top of the hour. So
Yeah, it went
the
by so
topic has
fast.
been like immigrants and stock market investing. So we hope you enjoy the show tonight. It's been a great show. As I said, just so awareness, we are not expert. I'm not a financial advisor. Miss B is not a
Neither am
financial
I.
advisor. If you want to know about real estate, I think you should talk to Miss B. That's a cup of tea. But it's just what we did here tonight was just to create awareness. I look at it, and to be fair to you, we are working on a guest, someone who's on a Wall Street analyst, someone who's well versed in stock market
Ooh.
investing. We're going to bring them here to just educate our audience, to just educate our community. That's something we are passionate about. Last night we had an economics professor here educating us about tariffs, the impact of tariffs and things like that. So that is something we always want to do on the Inner Cycle podcast, to bring resources, to bring education back to our community so we can all empower each other, amplify our voices, and elevate us so we can all make a change in this community. So, Miss B, it's been great having this conversation with you tonight. Hope you have a good night and see you tomorrow for a great topic. Tomorrow is gonna be late because we have a law enforcement officer. Who's been in the force for 10 years, an immigrant Liberian. He's doing well. And as I said, right here at Inner Cycle Podcast, we like to elevate folks that are doing, that are doing good work in North America here, right? He's a law enforcement officer on the East Coast. He's going to be here tomorrow, just sharing his experience, how he got into law enforcement, and maybe he could, encourage some folks out there to also, join the movement. So, but thank you so much, folks. It's been a great conversation that was meant to create awareness. Miss B, any last word from you?
Thanks, folks. As always, it's your girl Miss B, minding the business that pays me. So
Okay.
see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, folks, and you all have a good night.
Conversation, let's set